For Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito.
On July 2nd, 2021, a white 2012 Ford Transit Connect van rolled out of Blue Point, New York, carrying two young people and a carefully built dream. Gabrielle Venora Petito, known to everyone as Gabby, was 22 years old. She had long blonde hair, blue eyes, and small tattoos visible on her hand and forearm. She had spent months converting the van into a rolling home with a bed, tiny shelves, and plants. The plan was simple and bright. 4 months, national parks, content for Instagram, and a shared YouTube channel called Nomadic Static. The Florida plate, QFTG03, caught the morning light as the van headed west. Gabby had worked long shifts at a Taco Bell and as a nutritionist to save for this trip. She posted cheerful updates from Kansas, from the Great Sand Dunes, from Zion and Bryce Canyon. Followers saw open skies and quiet campsites. They saw a young woman who loved art, yoga, and the idea of living lightly. The van became a character in its own right, always framed against red rock or pine forest. By mid-August, the couple had reached Utah. On August 12, 2021, near the entrance to Arches National Park in Moab, Utah, the van was pulled over after a witness reported a disturbance. Body-worn camera footage captured Gabby speaking with officers. She appeared distressed. She explained an argument that had started over the cleanliness of the van.
Why wouldn't he let you in the car? Because of your OCD?
He told me I needed to calm down.
Officers separated the pair for the night. No charges were filed. The next morning, the couple continued west together. The body cam images would later become one of the last public records of Gabby's voice and face while she was still traveling. 5 days later, on August 17th, one of them flew briefly to Florida and returned. On August 25th, Gabby posted her final Instagram photo. It showed her standing in front of a wall painted with butterflies. That same day, she spoke with her mother, Nicole Schmidt, by phone. The conversation was ordinary. There were no obvious alarms. The next confirmed sightings came 2 days later in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. August 27th, 2021 began like many other days on the trip. Shortly after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Gabby and her traveling companion were seen at Mary Piglet's, a restaurant in Jackson Hole. A witness later described a tense exchange with staff. Gabby appeared upset when they left. At approximately 2:11 p.m., the pair entered a Whole Foods market in Jackson. Surveillance cameras recorded them moving through the aisles. They purchased groceries. Then the white van with Florida plate QFTG03 turned toward the Bridger Teton National Forest. By around 6 o'clock that evening, the van had reached the Spread Creek dispersed camping area. A family traveling in a converted bus captured the white Ford Transit Connect on a GoPro camera parked among the trees. The plate matched, the stickers matched. No one else was visible outside the vehicle at that moment. Later that same evening, at approximately 7:15 p.m., a text message left Gabby's phone and reached her mother. The message read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Nicole Schmidt found the wording strange. Gabby had never called her grandfather by his first name. Computer activity on Gabby's device continued until roughly 8:32 p.m. After that, the digital trail from her phone grew quiet. In the days that followed, ordinary messages continued to appear from Gabby's number. One claimed there was no service in Yosemite. The van itself was already moving east. On September 1st, 2021, the white 2012 Ford Transit Connect arrived alone at a residence in Northport, Florida. Gabby was not with it. Her mother continued trying to reach her. Calls went unanswered. Social media stayed silent. On September 11th, 2021, Nicole Schmidt filed a missing person report with police in Suffolk County, New York. The search for Gabby Petito had officially begun. Blue Point is a quiet Long Island community of tree-lined streets and close family ties. Gabby had grown up there, graduated from Bayport Blue Point High School, and kept close contact with her parents even after moving south. When the missing person report was filed, local officers and later federal agents began reconstructing the final days of the trip. They collected the Instagram posts, the Moab body cam footage, the Whole Foods video, and the GoPro clip from Spread Creek. Each piece of footage was ordinary on its own. Together, they formed a narrow window of time. The white van became the central object of attention. Its Florida registration, its rear stickers, its distinctive conversion details were broadcast widely. Tips began arriving from people who believed they had seen the same vehicle in Utah or Wyoming. Investigators focused first on the last confirmed locations: Mary Piglet's, the Whole Foods store, and the Spread Creek campsite itself. Search teams prepared to examine the remote forest roads and dispersed camping spots near Grand Teton National Park. For Gabby's family, the silence felt heavier with each unanswered call. Nicole Schmidt later described checking her phone constantly, hoping for a normal message that never came. Joseph Petito, Gabby's father, began reviewing every public post and every shared location from the trip. Friends who had followed the Nomadic Static channel noticed the sudden stop in updates. The cheerful images of national parks now carried a different weight. What had looked like freedom began to look like a trail that simply ended. By September 12th, the FBI had opened a formal investigation into the disappearance. Agents coordinated with park rangers and local deputies in Wyoming. The remote nature of the Bridger Teton National Forest complicated early efforts. Dispersed camping areas stretch across miles of open ground and dense tree cover. Weather and limited cell service added further difficulty. Still, the GoPro footage from August 27th gave searchers a precise starting point. The white van had been there. Gabby had been traveling in it. Now both the van and Gabby were accounted for in different places, hundreds of miles apart. The first public appeals focused on any additional sightings between Jackson and the campsite, or any contact after the evening of August 27th. The Stan text remained one of the last ordinary-seeming communications. Investigators noted its odd phrasing. Family members noted that Gabby's usual pattern of frequent check-ins had broken. In a community that had watched her document every stage of the journey, the sudden quiet felt impossible to ignore. The open road that had promised freedom now held only questions. What happened in the hours after that final text message left Gabby's phone? And why did the van that had carried her across half the country return home without her? Those questions would drive every step of the search that followed. Once the missing person report was filed on September 11, 2021, the investigation moved quickly from local Long Island officers to a multi-agency effort. The FBI opened its case the next day. Agents in Denver coordinated with the Teton County Sheriff's Office, Jackson Police, the National Park Service, and the U.S. Forest Service. The first concrete task was to lock down the last known locations. Mary Piglet's restaurant staff and Whole Foods employees in Jackson were interviewed. Surveillance video from both sites was secured and reviewed frame by frame. The white 2012 Ford Transit Connect with Florida plate QFTG03 became the primary visual marker. On September 15th, investigators recovered a Ford Mustang linked to the traveling companion in a nature preserve near Northport, Florida. The discovery shifted attention south, even while search teams in Wyoming prepared ground surveys of the Bridger Teton National Forest. Digital records were subpoenaed, Bank activity on Gabby's accounts showed transactions between August 30th and September 1st. Those transactions occurred while the van was traveling east. Text messages continued to leave Gabby's phone number during the same window. The content of several messages appeared designed to suggest ongoing travel farther west. In Blue Point, Nicole Schmidt and Joseph Petito spent those early days answering questions, reviewing every photograph, and trying to reconstruct the final week of contact. Nicole later described the strange feeling of receiving messages that no longer matched her daughter's usual voice or habits. Joseph focused on the practical side, tracking the van's registration, contacting friends who had followed the trip online, and pressing for faster action from agencies in multiple states. The family's home, filled with printed maps, printed posts, and lists of last known coordinates. By mid-September, search teams concentrated on the Spread Creek dispersed camping area. The GoPro footage from August 27th had placed the white van there at approximately 6 in the evening. Rangers and deputies walked the surrounding forest roads and open camping spots. Volunteers joined in organized grids. The terrain is open in places and densely wooded in others. Cell service is limited. Weather in the high country can change without warning. Every possible sighting of a white van or a young woman matching Gabby's description was logged and checked. On September 17th, the traveling companion's parents reported him missing from the Northport residence. The dual absences complicated the timeline. Investigators now had 2 people unaccounted for and a van that had returned to Florida alone. Federal agents executed search warrants at the Northport home. Phones, computers, and personal items were collected. An external hard drive recovered from the van itself was sent for forensic examination. Early analysis confirmed computer activity on Gabby's devices ending on the evening of August 27th. For Gabby's family, the second week of September brought a different kind of waiting. The initial hope that a simple communication problem or a temporary loss of signal explained the silence began to fade. Nicole continued to monitor every tip that reached the family through social media. Joseph spoke with reporters and local officials, trying to keep attention on the concrete details: the van, the last text, the campsite coordinates. Friends who had known Gabby from high school and from her earlier moves organized small awareness efforts on Long Island. Teal ribbons, the color associated with Gabby's eyes, began appearing on fences and lampposts. Digital records created the first clear contradiction. Messages leaving Gabby's phone after August 27th described locations farther west, yet the van's path and bank activity moved steadily east toward Florida. Investigators noted the timing of the messages and the debit card use. The pattern suggested an effort to maintain the appearance of continued travel. At the same time, the Moab body cam footage from August 12th was re-examined. Officers had documented a tense encounter near Arches National Park. Gabby had appeared distressed. The couple had been separated overnight. No further action had been taken. That earlier stop now sat inside a longer timeline of increasing silence. On September 19th, 2021, search teams working the Spread Creek area made a discovery. The location matched the GoPro footage captured 23 days earlier. The white van had been there. Gabby had been traveling in it. Now, investigators had a precise geographic point that closed one part of the question and opened many others. The finding was relayed to the family the same day. In Blue Point, the news arrived as both relief that a place had been identified and a new weight of uncertainty about what the discovery meant. In the days immediately after the discovery, the investigation intensified on 2 fronts. In Wyoming, forensic teams processed the campsite and surrounding ground. In Florida, the search for the second missing person continued across the large nature preserves near Northport. The Mustang recovered earlier was examined. Personal items belonging to the traveling companion were collected. Agents interviewed neighbors and reviewed local camera systems. Every lead that placed either person after August 27th was pursued. Gabby's parents spent those days in constant contact with investigators. Nicole later described the difficulty of receiving updates that answered one question only to raise three more. Joseph focused on ensuring that every digital record, phones, the hard drive from the van, social media accounts, was fully examined. The family released additional photographs and a detailed description of the van to keep public tips flowing. On Long Island, the teal ribbons multiplied. Small gatherings formed outside the family home. People who had never met Gabby brought flowers and handwritten notes. By late September, a clearer picture of the final days had formed. The last confirmed public sightings placed Gabby and Jackson on the afternoon of August 27th. The van reached Spread Creek that evening. Digital activity on her devices ended that same night. Messages and financial activity continued afterward in a pattern that did not match the physical movement of the van. The traveling companion had returned alone to Florida on September 1st. Those facts, assembled from video, bank records, phone data, and witness statements, became the foundation of the next phase of the investigation. The question that now occupied every investigator was simple and urgent. What sequence of events between the evening of August 27th at Spread Creek and the morning of September 1st in Northport explained the separation of Gabby from the van that had carried her across the country? The answer would require further examination of the digital trail, the campsite, and the people who had last seen her.